Running out of stock is every seller's nightmare. That's why a good Amazon inventory management strategy is the way to keep your business profitable and your customers happy. In this video with Chelsea Cohen, you will learn what data to look at to make smart inventory decisions so you never run out of stock and know exactly how to market your products. Enjoy the video.
Hello, Chelsea. I'm very happy that you are joining me here today on OrangeClick YouTube channel, and you're here to share some inventory and logistics related tips to help Amazon sellers to stay in stock. So before we go to your presentation and you sharing some tips, could you please first introduce yourself and also let us know what your background in the Amazon space?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Chelsea Cohen, and I am the co-founder of SoStocked. SoStocked is an inventory management software for Amazon sellers, and came about because I have been selling since 2014 and had inventory problems of my own, couldn't find a solution. So created SoStocked, and just recently, a few months ago, we were acquired by Carbon6. So now we are part of the Carbon6 family, and it gives us a lot more resources to be able to continue to grow in the direction that we need to.
Okay, sounds really good. So I know you prepared a couple of slides for us as well to dive a little bit deeper into the topic. So go ahead, share your screen, and we are ready for you.
Okay, great. So we're going to be talking about inventory strategies to stay profitably stocked. This is actually becoming, once again, more relevant than ever. We've got the new announcement that restock limits are back for the holiday season. So we're going to be talking about not just how to stay in stock with restock limits, but also how not to overstock, because that also hurts your abilities to get your best sellers into Amazon. We'll talk about a couple of different strategies that you should be utilizing during this time coming into the holiday season and then throughout the holiday season. A little bit about me. I did talk about me, again, selling it on Amazon since 2014 and really been immersed in inventory management for over 4 years now. I've talked to 6, 7, and 8-figure sellers, really hundreds of sellers as we continue to build SoStock, and written at this point, over 60 articles on inventory and supply chain management. So it's a subject that I'm very well versed in. For whatever reason, very passionate about this subject. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I have been able to work with other sellers to be able to avoid some of the common inventory issues that come up. So I wanted to talk about something that I feel is the new role of inventory management. Inventory management has tended to be a very reactive role in terms of, you're running out of stock, you need to go and place that order, and you're, sometimes scrambling, sometimes you have to do an expensive air shipment, and sometimes you're running out of stock. So the new approach is really to become proactive with inventory management. And there are a couple of things that you can and should be doing to become proactive. Whether you're the inventory manager and you're running everything yourself, from marketing to inventory to whatever else in your business as a solopreneur, or you've got a team that is split up into those various different duties, this is going to be how you can create systems to be able to be proactive in terms of staying in stock and also keeping the holding costs down. Because as you continue to hold inventory, it costs you more money every single month, and your profit actually decreases over time. We want to kind of try to prevent that. So I call this topic inventory-minded marketing. It's really the subject of how to get your marketing team and your inventory team to work together and how to get them coordinated. Because as I was building the tool and talking to these hundreds of sellers over time, and it's not just the beginning sellers, but even 8-figure sellers have problems with inventory and have created problems for themselves. And those problems are marketing themselves into a stockout. So if you go to, let's say, start a new PPC campaign, or you optimize your listing, or you do something that works really well and it works better than you thought it was going to work, and then it causes you to stock out. I've seen that happen over and over again, and that has been a large cause of stock outs. So inventory-minded marketing came about as a means of really getting those two teams to work together. There are a couple of reports that are utilized to really help those teams to coordinate. And it all started with the first report, which was obviously the marketing report. If the inventory team knows that there's going to be some sort of a marketing event, they can see that there's going to be enough inventory available for that event, or they can warn marketing if that marketing campaign is going to cause a stock out. So that is just the simple and easy check for that. And we're going to talk about what does that report look like. I actually have a free resource for you guys to be able to build out that marketing plan. And then we're going to talk about the inventory reports that the inventory team should be providing to the marketing team, so that the marketing team can have a better strategy for marketing product. And we'll talk about those 4 different reports in a second. First, I wanted to dive into the inventory-minded marketing planner. So this is a marketing plan that is put together by the marketing team and sent to the inventory team. And it would include all of the details that an inventory manager would need to know to be able to properly forecast for inventory. Because inventory forecasting is not just about what happened before, it's also what's going to happen in the future. So you have to look at the past sales data, and you also have to look at the future plans that you have. So this provides the future plans. And first and foremost, you would want to look at what sales velocity are you looking at? What is going to determine that sales velocity? Is it going to be combination of 30, 60, 90 days, for example? Are you going to be looking at last year's sales? Are you launching a new product and you set a manual velocity based on your research? What is that velocity? Because that number, everything is based on that number. If you're ordering 30 days worth of inventory, you need to know what your daily sales are going to be able to calculate what 30 days worth of inventory actually looks like. Then you want to include a trend. So if a trend is something that is relevant to you, let's say, for example, you launched a product last year and this year it's trending 10% more sales than it was before, you would want to add that trend. So anything in terms of a trend that looks at past data and then compares it to what is currently happening, that would be something that you would add into that calculation. And then additional sales growth would be another one. So let's say you've got a PPC campaign and you're putting together a PPC campaign and you think that that campaign is going to increase sales by 10%, you would add 10% on top of that. So these are factors that then go into the calculation so that the inventory management team can be ready for what sales occur during that time. Then you have the lightning deals, or really any sales event. So this could be an email campaign. This could be, let's say, an influencer campaign. You would just pick a date range for when you're going to be running that sales event and how many units you think you're going to be moving during that time. And that would go into the calculation. And then lastly, you have seasonal sales spikes. So this is looking at your seasonal time periods. Let's say you've got a summer product, but maybe it's a barbecue product, and you know that your sales are going to be increasing significantly during that time. You would put that date range for the summer, then you would put the percentage increase that you're predicting. So all of these go into the inventory-minded marketing planner, and you can download this through SoStocked.com/tools. We've got a bunch of free tools on there, and the inventory-minded marketing planner is listed on there for you as well. And then there's a video tutorial to walk you through that. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the reports that inventory should be sending to the marketing team. When I first started talking about inventory-minded marketing, it really was about marketing giving inventory data so that they could properly vet that data out. More I started looking at it really to start to be more proactive. Inventory sending data to the marketing team helps them to create a better marketing campaign. So the first thing that they need to be looking for is what I call a stockout risk report. What are those products that are at risk of stocking out? And the thing that you want to do there is you want to start putting these reports together. We do that in our software, but this is something that you can do in an Excel spreadsheet as long as you know the calculation. And so the calculation is actually fairly simple. You look at your total inventory, you divide that by your daily velocity, right? I like to say daily adjusted velocity because if you had a stock out, you want to make sure that you're not including that stock out in your calculation because that's going to skew things rather low. But make sure that you've got your true velocity, right? If you sell 100 units a day and then you had a stock out, you want to make sure you still count that 100 units a day and not let it be decreased by that stock out. So your total inventory and then divide it by your daily adjusted velocity. That's going to give you your total days of remaining stock. How many days do you have left until you burn through that inventory? And that will then give you, if you walk that forward in time, you'll be able to know what that stock out date is. So once you have those figured out, you'll be able to send that data to the marketing team. And if, let's say, you're going to be stocked out for 8 days, the marketing team could potentially avoid that stock out. If they've got some sponsored ads campaigns that are very aggressive and are actually costing a significant amount of money, they could kind of back off on those particular campaigns, save more money by not wasting a bunch of money on ad spend and stocking a product out, instead maybe avoiding that stock out and making more money with every unit that's sold during that time period. So that would be the benefit of the stock out risk report. Next, we have what I call the slow sellers report. And the slow sellers report it's actually a range. You're going to take a minimum and a maximum range, right? And again, this can be created on a spreadsheet as long as you pick the range for your particular business. These are the products that are not complete duds. They're not those products that you're going to just completely get rid of. You're going to try to revive these products. So let's say, for example, anything between 5 units a day and 20 units a day, you consider for your business a slow seller. Those products are going to go on a report, send it to the marketing team. Now the marketing team has the job of trying to move it out of that range and above that 20 units a day. So that's what the slow seller report does. It has a minimum and a maximum velocity that you're looking for. And the, again, marketing team needs to move that into being a more viable product. If they don't move it into being a more viable product, it can slip into what I call the liquidation report, which is just a minimum. So if we had 5 units to 20 units with slow sellers, anything below 5 units would be the liquidation. That just has the minimum velocity that you're looking at. And of course, liquidation, it's going to be sitting there costing you money every single day that it sits there, right? Every single month, you're going to be getting a bill from Amazon for that inventory. So you want to move that inventory as quickly as possible. You also want to get some of that money back so you can invest that money into something that is more successful for you. So that's what the liquidation report is. It's a sign to the marketing team that they need to figure out a campaign to move this stock as quickly as possible. It's, again, becoming more important than ever to have strategies for this, especially in the months leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, those dates where you need to have your inventory, your best-selling inventory at Amazon. If you've got a bunch of stuff that's clogging up your restock limits, now that you have restock limits again, having a strategy to move those out before they become a problem in fourth quarter becomes very important. Finally, we have the overstock report. And so this report is, people are quite common with this concept, having more inventory than you should at, let's say, at Amazon. Let's say you have 90 days and you say, I want to look at everything that has more than 90 days worth of supply on Amazon, right? This, the calculation is the same calculation as the stockout risk report. The difference here is that you're just looking at, let's say, anything over 90 days of supply, right? So you have your inventory divided by your daily adjusted velocity, and that will pull up the days of supply. And lots of times you'll have slow sellers on this report, you'll have the liquidation products on this report, but you can often have best sellers on this report as well. And that can be used actually to your benefit. If you want to get your product ranking for a specific keyword and you have a bunch of inventory available, you can somewhat buy your way up that ranking by targeting that keyword and using that inventory, the excess inventory, to drive your rankings, to specifically get that product to rank higher on those particular keywords. So that's one of the benefits of the stockout risk report. It provides a resource for the marketing team to be able to help to improve the product rankings. Similarly, one of the better things to see is if you've got something on the stockout risk report and you've got it on the slow sellers report. The slow sellers report, you need to get that product to be selling more profitably, right? Get it into a more viable range, selling more units a day. So if you have overstock, you can then target particular keywords for that particular product and help to boost it up the rankings because you're getting it more traffic on more aggressive keyword ranking strategies. So it really is a benefit to see product on the slow sellers report and on the overstock report. All right, that brings us to a close on the specific topic of inventory-minded marketing. The last thing I wanted to cover is a topic that I call logistics flexibility. And this is something that once you adopt this, it can give you a lot more options to being able to handle problems as they come up across the supply chain. We had someone on one of our webinars who said that they implemented this strategy and they hadn't stocked out since they started doing this. So this can be very powerful, especially if you do it in such a way that you're not completely overextending your financial resources. And so I'll talk about what logistics flexibility is, but also how to possibly do it without while saving money across your supply chain. So it essentially is something that I call the golden rule, and that is never let anyone have all your stuff. I started to realize how important this concept was in 2015 when I sent all of my inventory for my bestseller to Amazon right before the holidays, and they lost it during the holidays, and then they found it after the holidays had ended. So I essentially lost out on all those sales that I should have made during the holidays, and I had a bunch of overstock after that. So it was a stock out combined with an overstock because I had missed that Christmas window. Very damaging to the holiday season and very stressful for any seller to have to deal with. And so one of the things that I started paying attention to when I would ask people, they would say, you know, I stocked out, or I'm dealing with a stock out, and people tended to come and talk to me about this stuff. I'd always like to ask what happened to cause the stock out. And most of the time, it was that they let some company have all their stuff. So they put everything in a container, and then the ship got stuck at port. They gave everything to Amazon, and Amazon lost their inventory or they took forever to check it in, they started using a 3PL. That 3PL was not reliable and could not get stuff out the door fast enough. And so they would place their order to get their stuff shipped, and it would take a week or two to actually get it shipped because that 3PL was overloaded. So this idea of, if you have the ability to spread your resources, that can become a very good strategy. Here's how often some smart sellers that I've talked to, and what we recommend to do is, if you're going to order, let's say, a container worth of inventory, you go to order that container, place a little bit of a larger order. So order a container's worth plus a month or plus 2 months, whatever you can afford. And then what you're going to do is you're going to keep that extra month or so of inventory with your supplier. Oftentimes your supplier will hold that inventory without charging you. So you're not paying for storage fees on that inventory. And then quite often you can negotiate to only pay that final payment on whatever ships, whatever leaves that supplier's warehouse. So if you're getting an ocean shipment, plus a couple of months, you'll probably have to pay, let's say, 30% down for the entire order. But then that other 70%, you would only pay on the container. And then you've got this inventory sitting there. You are not paying for it. You've only paid the 30% down. You're not paying that 70% until you actually have to use it. And you're not paying for the storage. Let's say for 3 months, they might even let you to have that inventory sit there for 3 months without paying storage. But then if anything goes wrong, you have that extra inventory. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the ocean freight arrives on time and you don't have to do anything with that inventory. You just put it on the next boat and you keep that cycle going. But if it gets stuck at port, you'll know the date at which you have to send that inventory by air. And you only send it by air if you absolutely need to, because it's extremely expensive compared to sending it by ocean. But it's often more expensive to stock out. So you'll have that inventory there, send it by air, then you can send it FBA, 3PL, wherever you're going to be sending it, but you have that option to be more flexible with your inventory because you haven't put it all in one place. And then lastly, you want to take this same concept and you want to move it to your local inventory. You put it in the 3PL, and then you put inventory on the truck, right? Less than truckload or full truckload, but you don't put everything on the truck. Amazon last year was known for not checking things in quickly enough. Your stuff could be sitting there for 4 weeks, for 5 weeks, for 6 weeks. And that's because Amazon got really backed up. And so they would force people, contractually, they were forcing truckers, because they owned a lot of the trailers. They were forcing truckers to drop those trailers and drive away without emptying them out. One of the things that you can do is you can work with a carrier that does live unload. Just ask your 3PL, your freight forwarder, whoever it is, I want to work with someone who does live unload, because live unload means that they're emptying it directly into the warehouse, and not everyone does that. So that's one thing that you can do, is to start using live unload. But regardless, you would want to have a little bit of inventory reserved at your 3PL and have the ability to send inventory small parcel delivery if you need to. If your stuff is not checking in, you would have the benefit of sending inventory faster. It tends to, with small parcel delivery, it tends to check in live. It does a live unload generally. So you know that more than likely the date that your inventory arrives is going to be, give or take a couple of days, the same time that your inventory is going to check in, because that's what you really care about. You don't care when it arrives, you care when it checks in. It could arrive and then not check in for 3 weeks. And then, of course, lastly, having an FBM option. So having an option where there's a warehouse external to Amazon FBA that will actually fulfill your orders. because even if Amazon's your only sales channel, it should not be your only distribution channel. It should not be the only way that you can get inventory to your customers. So that is essentially the way that logistics flexibility works. It's the follows the golden rule of never let anyone have all your stuff. And it just gives you the options to be able to pivot whenever anything might go wrong. So just to recap, over order and store excess inventory at your suppliers, renegotiate payment terms so that you're only paying for what ships out, split your shipment to air freight only when needed, and then apply the same to your 3PLs, your less than truckload, and your small parcel delivery. All right, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. It was really full of different tips that will help Amazon sellers to better take care of the inventory and also deal with the logistics. So I wanted to ask first, because you're an Amazon seller yourself, when was the moment when you realized that there's so many details into the inventory part and supply chain part that you really need to take care of and like step up? Was it the same Christmas time where you missed your sales?
Unfortunately, it wasn't. I had to make a few more mistakes up until that point. It was really looking at my profit and loss statement at the end of 2017 and realizing that I wasn't keeping as much of the money as I should have been, and starting to dig into what was happening. Oh, there were stockouts happening. There were mistakes being made of ordering too much and then paying for months and months and months on that, storage fees, removal orders, a lot of different things that really got expensive and started eating my profit based on inventory. And that's when I knew that I had to do something about it.
Okay, very good. So yeah, you learned from your experience and now you're helping others as well. That's really great. So let's say when sellers realize they have made their order too late, and most probably they will face going out of stock. Is there anything they can do to kind of save the situation or at least make it a little bit softer for them?
Yeah, in going out of stock, it's just, I guess it's, depending on what you have, what your resources are that you have available. Some people do air freight, which is a bit expensive, but it can help the situation to do air freight. Some people choose to slow down their sales. You have to be careful with that. When you tend to slow down your sales, you can be more profitable. So if it's going to be a short-term stock out, like I said, like 8 days or, maybe even 10 days, you might be able to cut back on, let's say, coupon codes, or cut back on sponsored ads or whatever it is, raise your price a little bit. Make sure that you're not really dropping down in the rankings too much. So you want to make sure that you're not, undoing a lot of the work that you've done before, but you will be able to be more profitable and you will be able to at some times avoid that stock out.
Okay, thank you. And regarding to the last part of your presentation, you said it's good to have like a local warehouse or 3PL. So do you have any advice to give to sellers? How could they pick out a good warehouse for themselves locally? What should they ask them perhaps? Is it important that they have previous Amazon experience, for example?
I would say knowing the ins and outs of how FBA works, knowing how to deal with FBA, and then also 3PLs can be the people who work there can be extremely knowledgeable. So if I would say asking them about, what's the best way to send inventory into Amazon, and see what they say. Ask them about live unload. If they don't know what live unload is, that's a problem. Ask them, do you work with any companies that do live unload? What is your turnaround time? If I were to place a request to get my inventory sent into FBA, what does that turnaround look like? So those types of things, making sure that they understand and can advise you on the best ways to send your inventory, because they should be the ones who know better than anyone. And I actually learned a lot of what I know now in terms of how that process works, because I've talked to the warehouse owners that I work with. So I would say those would be some of the best questions to ask. And then the last thing is, if you're looking at a company that does fulfillment and replenishment, and the difference is fulfillment is they're sending single units, they're sending orders to your customers versus sending shipments to FBA, right? If they do both, you want to make sure that they can handle both. So asking them what their hiring process and their training process is before the big Q4 rush. How do they split up those teams? Like, do those teams work on both sides? Because if they get a big rush of fulfillment orders, they're going to get those out first, and they might neglect your replenishment. And so now you're stocking out at FBA because you've got a company that has not hired and trained enough people to handle both sides. So that's a really important conversation to have.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing what you have learned throughout the years. I'm sure it will be helpful for the Amazon sellers. So once again, could you once more explain how the software, which is recently acquired by Carbon6, helps Amazon to better plan their inventory and stay on top of it?
Sure. So one of the big differentiators that we have, and why I created the software, was that you know more about your business generally as a seller than anyone else does, and you know the plans that you have in place. And if you don't have the ability to customize and adapt that, it's going to be useless. The forecast is going to be useless. If one number is off, I mean, it's math. If one number is off, the entire forecast is off. So having the ability to not just look at past data, but also look at future planning. What do I have in my planning? What are my marketing campaigns? What are my lightning deals that are scheduled? Even to the point of knowing that you have to order early for Chinese New Year. That's a big problem. All those things are factors and they need to be accounted for. And so our software helps to account for those things, helps to create advanced calculations and planning for proper forecasting for your business, and then tracks everything, has a PO system, and tracks your inventory from the point that you place your order to the point that it actually arrives at your warehouse or at FBA, and factors all of that in to give you a full 12-month forecast.
Sounds really good. And what's the best way to learn more about the software itself and also sign up if anyone is interested?
If you go to SoStocked.com/connect, you'll be able to find not just how to connect with us, but also a demo. The free tools are on there, and then the website where you can sign up as well.
Okay, great. So thanks again for joining me, and I wish good luck in your business.
Awesome. Thank you.
Don't forget to hit the like button below and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. And now I recommend you to watch another video with foreign brands where you will learn how to forecast your product demand.